Hello everyone, I'm Dalia Kader. I'll be speaking about malware analysis. So before we talk about malware analysis, we have to have the basic understanding of what a malware is. A malware is any software that was designed with the purpose of harming a certain victim. It takes different forms. It has different types depending on how it spreads, how it hides its traces, and so on. And it attacks the victim from a confidentiality, integrity, or availability point of view. So basically, the differences between the types of malware are not important for this talk, but to understand the concept is what matters. So it's basically software designed to harm. Why do we need to do malware analysis? Well, first of all, if you understand the functionality of the malware, you understand better what damages was caused because of it. It indicates how it spreads. So if you understand how it spread, you would know what kind of systems were compromised if you're hit by that malware. It also gives you an idea of what it exploited. And when you understand what the malware exploited, then you're getting to know more about the vulnerabilities in your network and system, which will help you harden your environment more. The community generally, when they're doing a malware analysis, the community shares all the signatures and indication of compromise they discovered for a specific malware. And when you share that, you can protect your environment before being hit using those signatures. Also, you would like to know the sophistication level of the malware. Ideally, you would like to know who created the malware, especially if it's a targeted attack. And basically, when you're doing the analysis, you're trying to answer as many questions as possible. What are indications of compromise? Well, we have three types of indication of compromise. One is a malware-based signature, which relates to the software of the malware itself. So, for example, a hash of that executable or a hash of one of the files it created, and so on. Host-based signature, malware tend to do changes on the environment they're hosted in, such as changing registry keys, creating new files, and so on. And that is what we refer to as host-based signature. And network-based signature, the final type, is basically any communication that is coming out of the malware. Malwares tend to try to communicate maybe to a malicious URL or a malicious server, IP address. It sometimes tries to communicate to your internal network to attack other systems around it. So those communications, if you kind of find a pattern to them, that's what we refer to as network-based signature. So during this talk, we will be using a very old malware called MSN malware. It's available on the URL link provided on the slide. As you see, immediately my antivirus detected the malware, so it's actually known, signatures are available, but it's a very good malware to demonstrate on the different types and methods for analyzing. So that's why we chose this malware. General rules for malware analysis. First, you don't want to dig into the details and focus on the details while losing on the expense of losing the key features of the malware, because malware programs can be complex programs. Also, you want to utilize as much tools as possible. Sometimes some of those tools will overlap in functionality, but that gives you more chances of finding information. So you might get lucky with one tool more than the other. Also, sometimes the different tools you use to analyze the malware complement each other. So they look at it from different angles and approaches. Therefore, they either confirm your theory or add to it, and so on. Finally, keep in mind that it's always a race between the malware analyst and the malware creator. Malware programmers are clever and they know how to hide their traces, so you need to try to be one step ahead of them. What are the malware analysis techniques used? So we can divide the techniques according how we're analyzing the malware and what we are analyzing. So how we are analyzing the malware, there are mainly two types, static analysis and dynamic analysis, with the main difference being that in static analysis, you do not execute the code. You do the analysis without executing the code. While dynamic analysis, the main concept is to run the code and interact with it. Automated analysis is another way of how to analyze a malware, and it depends on a third party, using vendors who already have the expertise and have the tools, and depending on them to do the analysis for you, and their automated systems to do the analysis for you. We'll go into details of each one of those in later slides. The other way to divide the techniques of malware analysis is either you analyze it from a behavioral point of view, so that's when you see how it interacts in a certain environment, and you look for, the system-based or network-based changes, or you analyze it from looking into the code. Of course, keep in mind that it's almost impossible to have the actual source code of a malware. But the idea is to have the malware running and look into the deassembled code and the machine code that is running in the background, and understanding that to understand the malware's functionality.